keep finding ways that we're helping partners finding either, balance in their life or focus or purpose.
Practices that are going to help improve your project management skills or your finances.
We're here to talk about setting long-term goals and then how to achieve them.
Increasing your quality, therefore becoming the best place in town to work.
Welcome to Academy Live. Hello, everyone. So we know marketing and sales development is an area that many MSPs struggle with, especially if you're just getting started or it's something that you might not have a lot of experience with. However, as we all know, it's very, very important for every company to attain their growth goals and achieve success, and they need to have a robust sales process in place with new clients getting signed and onboarded regularly. Today, we are very lucky to have a sales expert joining us to talk about how the Pax8 sales team has evolved, how the sales team is designed to support partners such as yourselves, and advice on how MSPs can advance their sales and marketing skills and team. In this show, we'll also cover the importance of command of the message, answering questions like, what are your value drivers? What will catch your prospects' attention? And speak to the problems you solve for your clients. Stay tuned for this next hour to find out with our guest, Jared Pangretic, SVP of Sales for Pax8.
We are really excited to have Jared Pangretic. I'm so used to calling him JP, but make sure introduce him as Jared Pangretic on the show. But first, I wanted to take a minute to talk about one of our favorite subjects and talk a little bit about the Phoenix peer group. And
Such
I
an
love that
exciting
we have a testimonial here to share that I'm really excited about. Can we pull that up and share that with the audience?
My name is Chris Callow. I'm the managing partner of a MSP in Saskatchewan, Canada called Four Summits Technologies.
I'm Christopher Gay. I run Absolute IT Services out of Oklahoma City, Oklahoma.
My name is Corey Kraft, and my company is CDK Technical Consulting in Seattle, Washington, and I'm the owner of the business.
My name is Nyla Hussein. I run a mostly Mac-based MSP out of LA and Las Vegas.
I'm in Phoenix One. The idea behind the group is to take an organization from $0 in revenue all the way to $1 million in revenue. And we've been at this since June 28th of last year. We've had an opportunity to learn a lot.
It's a group where small businesses, one-man, two-person managed service providers, we meet every week and we kind of share our struggles and our experiences as solopreneurs.
It has been a great thing. We are there to help each other, share stories, as well as learn from each other, as well as from the Pax8 Academy team.
I'm sitting around other people from different parts of the US, some who have been in this space longer than me and some who have been in this space just about the same time as me. But together we've created this group of where we come to each other for questions, where we come to each other for thoughts and ideas, and we're kind of able to use each other as sounding boards.
Around 2007, took that job to build a managed services practice in an established company. And that's when I started making this list of all these operational things we needed to work on.
One of the best things about being in this peer group is we get to meet with Rex once a week. I don't think there's a lot of people out there that get to say that. There's always wisdom that Rex has to share, and that would be one of my biggest takeaways is the wisdom that Rex shares. Whether it applies today or down the road or it's happened in the past, there's always a lesson to be learned.
I've talked to people in other industries, and most of the time, the people that I've talked to that have joined peer groups in those industries have said that it's the best thing that they've done. And so I think peer groups in general are great. And then the way that Pax8 runs these, especially with the Phoenix Flight Plan, it's invaluable. And so it's not something that I think a small MSP should go without.
What do you think of that, Rex?
I absolutely love that. The concept behind the Phoenix peer groups was kind of rising out of the ashes, right? We kind of came up with this $0 to $1 million flight plan, like work on this and then work on this and then work on this and then work on this in that order. But probably more importantly is don't worry about all this other stuff yet. And it's been so
Mm-hmm.
much fun working with those Phoenix peer groups. Um, just they just keep telling me
I think
how much we're helping them, how much we're helping them.
it's been awesome watching the transition of the partners engage with that. And I love the expression, what to do first when you have to do everything. And that's, I think, one of the really powerful things about these flight plan and the Phoenix peer groups is kind of that, yeah, kind of try to make it one step at a time. Let's focus here. Let's move this forward. So I think it's really powerful.
And Chris, I know the Phoenix peer groups, they don't meet in person, but most of our other peer groups do. And I know you recently were in person in Minnesota with some peer groups. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
We did our this session accountability meetings in Minneapolis. Had a great time. The weather was amazing. It was just a great place to be for the meetings. But those accountability meetings in person are so powerful. It was just so much fun, and the energy around it. It's emotional. It's a roller coaster. It's stressful. It's uh, energizing. I think for the most part, for most partners coming out the end of it, it's rejuvenating. It's energizing. They go out with kind of a focus point. These are the next one or two things I'm working on and moving my business forward. And Rex, you've been on both sides. You've facilitated and been in a peer group. Can you just highlight real quick some key points of accountability meetings or in person?
Yeah, just back in 2004, I was in that service executives peer group, and I say it's one of the inflection points in my career that just changed the direction in a real positive way. I talk about we set strategic goals, and we had very specific financial metrics, and I think the most telling thing is I was way more worried to go to my peer group and say that I didn't make one of my goals or I'm not hitting one of my metrics than I ever was to talk to the guy that signed my paycheck. So those like that peer group can be so influential. And I talk to service execs all the time, and I was just talking to one guy down in Florida, and about for maybe about 3 years, I was trying to get him and the guy that he worked for to let him go to a service exec peer group. And it was just like, I don't know if we need it. I don't know if we need it. And, now he's been in the group about a year and a half, and he's saying the same thing that you hear me saying, which is it's like one of the most impactful things he's ever done. So I just know it's
Yeah,
super, super impactful.
it's amazing. Well, now I'd love to bring on JP and kind of get to the show. JP, thank you so much for taking time. We're really glad to see you. So welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks so much for having me, Chris.
And
It's an honor to be here.
and I want to start to a couple things. Let's start with this one. Let's get this right out of the way. Our theme for this month has been back to school, and I think somehow we got a hold of a gem of a photo that I would love to share with the audience and have you tell us a little bit about this picture here.
Yeah, great photo. This is the first day of kindergarten for me in Newtown, Pennsylvania. And bleached head at the time already. Look at the outfit, right? I mean, I love that outfit. I wish I still had that outfit and it fit me. But yeah, I grew up as a kid into outdoors and sports and action sports, skateboarding. So it already started as a young age for me.
You would rock that outfit now, I guarantee it. And is that where it all began? I mean, that might be a little bit early, but when did you know that sales, marketing, that part of the business and that part of your brain is where you were interested in? At what point in your life you say, I really want to focus in on that?
Yeah. Well, let me back you up and talk you, from that kindergarten version to where, really
Hmm.
advancing through where we are today. And what I'll tell you is we moved around a lot. when I was young. I was born in Akron, Ohio. We moved to New Jersey, then to Cleveland, Ohio, then to Metro Philly in Newtown, and then to Metro Detroit. And so we moved around quite a bit. And what I realized was, first of all, in order to move around like that and feel comfortable, I had to be, communicate. I had to rely upon my communication skills to meet new people because I valued relationships and friendships that way. And of course, you also want to fit in, as being the new kid on the block. And so, I really relied upon those types of communication skills, which I think sit at the backbone of being effective in sales, along with being an effective listener. And, as I was growing up over time and having conversations with my parents about a career in sales, it dawned on them. They said, it's fascinating. When you were growing up, when there was something that you were fixated on, something that you'd wanted, you realized over time that if we were going to say no, you would have come up with 2 or 3 different responses to the no. And, my mom and my father would sit there after the situation unfolded and have a conversation about, like, is he practicing this in his room? Like, what is he doing here? Because it's pretty impressive. I think I impressed them. And, that's validating, I think, for me. And, so that's where some roots really got planted. But it wasn't until later did I realize that, wow, a career in sales, that is something that I want to pursue. And that really didn't come until later. I had a position at a company called Mountain Smith, and it was a sales and marketing coordinator role. And so, sort of straddling both sides. And I remember having conversations with my mentor at the time that, look, there are positions like this as you continue to advance your career, but in some cases, you're going to make the decision to go pursue a specific path, sales or marketing. And, think about what you have passion for. And sales really was the calling for me at that time, is reflecting on the things I mentioned, the communication skills, listening, and then, of course, just things I was doing naturally as a kid, trying to get the outcome I wanted.
Makes a lot of sense. And I'm kind of all over the place here. You make me think about so many things. I love talking to you because every time I walk away, it's like new ideas and just thoughts. But I'm going to throw this out there. Can we bring up the quote? This is a Jared Pangretic original. If we could bring this up, I'd love for you to read this. This is something we do on our show every week. We bring up a quote. Read the quote and tell us what it means to you. I think this is a different quote. If you can remember what we talked about with the quote that you have, I'd love to hear it and have you talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So let me tell you the quote. So the quote is, always bow, never stern. And how I got to this, sort of prolific moment for me that I thought was prolific, I was working for a company called the National Outdoor Leadership School. It's a nonprofit that teaches like hard technical outdoor skills, things like mountaineering, rock climbing, sailing, etc., and in different locations around the world. But I was their marketing department, where they went to market to spread awareness, was a 38-foot flat nose vegetable oil solar powered bus. Okay, and this thing went around the country to different events. We went to different universities and colleges because you could earn college credit through the National Outdoor Leadership School. And so we were recruiting, and we would write blogs about where we were, what we did, the people we'd meet, etc. And my colleague said, "Look, it's your first blog. What's your sign off? What's your call?" And I didn't have one at the time. And I said, "Well, what's yours?" And they're like, "Well, no. You got to come up with your own." And so as I was thinking about that, I was facing some adversity in my personal life. And I was reflecting on that and really came to the sense of, in boating and nautical, always bow, the front of the boat moving forward, never stern, the back part of the boat. All I can do is reflect on what's behind me, what's happened, and take action on the things I can control, which is what's in front of me. So my sign off was always about that. Can really only move forward reflect on the past, carry those things with me. And so that's where I landed on always bow, never stern. And it's still so true to me today.
Okay. Yeah, let's bring that up real quick. If we could show that up on the screen. I love that that's deep, that there's kind of a lot more meaning behind it, and it makes so much sense. I really appreciate you kind of explaining that, how you came about that, why that was important, and I think it's got a lot of meaning. Now, for the people listening, can you describe your current, roles and responsibilities?
Yeah, absolutely. So at Pax8, I joined Pax8 in April of 2014. So it's been a little over 9 years. And have seen the business really transform. When I came in, there were 20 of us, and everyone was wearing a lot of hats, which I personally thrive in that type of environment. I am a team player to my core. I love working with other individuals, the collaboration, and I love just getting my hands dirty and helping out where needed, when needed, how I'm needed. So to start out at Pax8 at that time, it was perfect for me. Over the course of our evolution and journey, we built quite a partner community. And, kudos to the Academy group, because it's really just escalated in the last few years since Academy has officially landed and launched. So kudos to you all for the amazing work. Today, I oversee all of sales, all of revenue for North America. And so what that looks like is we have our demand generation, our SDR, BDR roles, who are working the top of the funnel, aligning to new prospective partners, having business conversations, delivering those into our account management and account executive teams. And then ultimately, we have a solution consultant team that is also dedicated to an account, but is specialized in specific areas. So areas like productivity, or infrastructure, or continuity and security. So because of our marketplace, we have these types of roles with people who are specializing and focused in this. And then finally, we also have our sales engineer team, who's responsible for technical enablement, showing product, making sure it's going to fit and meet the needs of our partner and their customer, and then the onboarding of those products and making sure that it is adopted and being utilized in the best possible way. And so today, those are the groups and the lanes I oversee, which is for US and for Canada as well.
Awesome. Well, you got quite a history. You've seen a lot. You know a lot. It's amazing to watch what you've accomplished, um, what you contribute to Pax8, the teams that you've built around you. Um, I have lots more questions. I'd love to spend more time with you, but I want to make sure to give my co-host some opportunities. Also, I want to make sure Rex has some questions for you that he'd like to ask as well.
JP, I am so awesome that you're on this show, man. I'd like to kind of focus my talk on three different segments. One, I'd like to talk a little bit about your ride with sales at Pax8, and then a little bit about sort of the how you work with a lot of partners, so kind of how sales happens within a partner as they mature, and then maybe just a little bit around some marketing advice for our partners out there. So first of all, I think I heard you say a few minutes ago you were in the first 20 employees at Pax8. I knew it was early, but I didn't know it was that early. But
yeah,
in December I had a moment. I was in our JP and I both report to Lane Brannon, and I was in his kind of sales planning meeting, and I just had this moment where I was like, wow, this is the crew that drove this company to $1 billion in sales that we hit in November, right? $1 billion a year run rate.
yeah.
And I was like, this is the crew that made that happen. Coming from the SMB background, it's almost unfathomable to me. Maybe just share a little bit about that journey, growing.
Yeah. Yeah, I would love to. And yeah, thanks for the comments, Rex. It's been an amazing ride. I've learned so much from my colleagues, from my peers, and then about myself, and I've had the fortunate opportunity to try a lot of things, and some things have gone really, really well, to the tunes of the numbers you mentioned, and other things we learned, probably aren't going to work out, or it was a good idea and concept, and then we learned some of the items that we could take away from it that we could then build into and enhance, our program. So it's been an amazing journey, and yeah, I'll talk a little bit about that. When we got our start, it was literally the Wild West, and I don't mean that as a pun. We are based in Denver, Colorado. That's where our global corporate headquarters is, but it was the Wild West. I mean, we were doing anything and everything we possibly could to call outbound to partners to get them to buy into the vision that we had. And you have to keep in mind, keep perspective. At that time, we were trying to call business partners and tell them about, how distribution for cloud in a marketplace needs to be rethought. We called ourselves a cloud commerce marketplace. So, immediately out of the box, partners were scratching their head. There's nothing worse than explaining something and have someone say, well, tell me more about that. How's that work? And
Yeah.
so we were also in the moment that we didn't have vendors as well, right? So we're talking about this marketplace concept, purpose built for business partners. And, then, okay, great. So what vendors do you have that you work with? And we say, well, these three. And they're like, well, two of them I've never heard of, and one of them I'll never work with. I'm like, all right, well, let's talk about the other two then. So when the mission was really starting, we were always focused on what is the buying journey? What is the partner/customer journey with Pax8? What are our value propositions that we offer to at Pax8 to business partners like them? And how do we create this experience that is really bespoke or feeling curated for them based on our value prop and based on a buying journey? So we spent a lot of time mapping those types of things out. And when we originally were in the foundation of this, we had lots of frameworks and email drip campaigns talking about these messages, talking about the value prop of Pax8, where we had our SDRs setting up these types of business opportunities. And I'm talking 80 to 100 dials a day, every day, being out there cold calling because we didn't have a name in the market. So we also relied, heavily on some of our marketing. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but marketing created a big splash. We had to enter into this space that was really preoccupied, and it was almost owned already by, some other members in the market. And so we had to adapt and stay agile really, really quickly all the time. This meant that as a business, we were constantly meeting all department leaders, all staff. We were meeting and talking about what's going on in the marketplace, what's happening in sales, what's the message with marketing that's working, where are these leads coming from that we're going, that are converting for us. So once we really got some opportunity in the market, meaning we were able to get some more partners, there were a few products went end of life, we capitalized on that. We then were able to go and get more vendors to work with us and get into the marketplace. It's been a constant refinement, but continued to be focused on that partner experience, the buying journey, and making sure that our teams are aligned to that and are aligned to fit in the roles and responsibilities, the handshake efforts between, to provide that type of curated experience that we believe is really hard to replicate.
I love that. Absolutely love that. So if you think about our partners, right, there's sort of everybody reports to the owner, and then there's an owner and a service manager of some sort, and then a leadership team, and then some of our largest partners that are just multi-geography, lots of acquisition mode. At each of those stages, do you think selling is different? And you're working with our partners at all those different stages. I guess my question is, do you have any advice for them at each of those stages about how to generate new revenue for their businesses?
Yeah, great question. I mean, I'll tell you just from the experience at Pax8, I'll lean in and talk about this, and I think it really translates into our business partners here. So what we realized was, as we were going out and selling and finding new business partners to work with us, we were really working with a wide array of partners, and we do that today. And I'm talking about, businesses of different maturity levels. We have some like the Phoenix groups that are just starting out, right? Solo entrepreneur, getting their foundation. We work with those types of businesses. And when we got started, that was the predominant portion of businesses that we really worked with. And the ones that shine were the ones that were seeing the future, skating where the puck's going and getting themselves prepared for what it means to run a cloud practice, how that's going to evolve their business. And as you can imagine, for a seller, they typically, how we align the seller is they have a territory or a book of business, and it constitutes a number of different types of accounts in there, a number that can range in size. When we got started, everyone had a very similar number of accounts. It was 75 accounts every rep had. How we got to that number, a little bit of a guess, right? It's a bit of a guess. We think a seller can have this type of capacity to produce a certain amount of opportunity that then converts to meet a number and stays underneath of a months to payback window that we track. And, when you think about this, what we created was we had sellers who were turning around, and in one conversation, they're talking to the solo entrepreneur about starting their business practice. And then they would turn around in the very next call, they're working with like an OML, level 4 executive team, senior leadership, right? Director groups. And they're trying to wear those different types of hats. Now they can take a lot of the learnings from, the more mature partners and bring that down. But it is hard, right? Like think about this, the conceptually in your mind, switching back and forth in those conversations. So as we have continued to grow ourselves and evolve, we've aligned based on the profile of the partner, their maturity, and have really taught our sellers, our account managers and account executives the skills to work with those types of businesses and to be able to have more of a repeat conversation, taking the learnings from some more mature partners and bring it down and scale it down so that they can be successful. And I think, to the question that you brought up is, what's the advice to partners like that? You really need to think about the types of customers you're going after, the size of the customers you're going after, and how you're applying your internal resources, your sales managers, account executives, to meet the needs and demands of those customers by also uniting in a common language together, which means your sales methodology, your sales framework, and then how you identify opportunities through stages of the opportunity, and making sure that everyone speaks that same type of language together so you have harmony. And I think that's where a lot of managed service providers, when we talk to them, a lot of the times they say, oh yeah, I've got a lot of that up in my head. And I'm trying to get it down onto, a deck or a presentation we can use to enable, but you can tell that they're having a hard time doing that. They don't have the time or the resources to do it. So odds are, if you have a sales team of 10 people and you ask them, tell us about them, they might say, well, 4 of them are great. And the other 6, they're okay. What makes the 4 different? I don't know. But if we could get 4 more of those or replicate them, boy, we sure would be successful. And the message I would encourage is, you got to think about leveling the ocean up together. And that means the buying journey, the customer journey, profile segmentation, and understanding the sales framework and methodology in which you communicate, and it lands in a defined strategy that you can enable, teach, train in a repeatable way that will lead to success in discovery of opportunity to closing of opportunity. So probably a lot there that I just went through. And so let me pause, Rex. You might have some follow-up questions on that.
Yeah. First, sorry about that weird chat bubble that came up. We'll work on that. I got two in here. Technically, Chris says, what is specific? Let's see. What is a specific vendor that helped drive partners to Pax8? The enablement provided, the marketing, or was it just a combination of everything at the right time?
Wow. Killer question. Okay, I would be lying if I didn't say it was a combination of many things coming together at the same time. And there were also some market conditions that we capitalized on when we saw them. So let me give you an example of one of these. Our founder, our CEO, his name's John Street. A number of other executives at Pax8 came from MX Logic. MX Logic, if you're unfamiliar with them, we're a leader in cloud email security, web security, endpoint, archiving, and encryption. And they sold to McAfee. And then, once a 2-year non-compete ran up,
I
and
was an
John
MX
Dowd,
Logic partner back then.
you were okay, yeah. So
I was.
very familiar with the product, and they built a phenomenal partner program. They had an amazing reputation in the space, and so after non-compete clause ran out, and John dabbled with retirement a little bit, and said, this is boring. I'm going to put my brain power to good use and jump into this cloud marketplace business. And what we saw was there was a market event. McAfee announced an end of life of MX Logic. Now, at the time, the only other like competitive product we had Symantec email security, and they had a host of other products via Symantec, like endpoint, web, etc. And we knew there was a buying event that was going to happen. People were going to be switching off of this technology. We created a migration tool that snapshotted information out of McAfee MX Logic, and we could upload the policies, users, et cetera, inside of Symantec. And we went hard on that. We had our marketing team in full alignment, like I'm talking full court press. We were in the market, hot, all over this topic. And we led with the value and benefit of us doing the uplifting, the work, right? We did all the product demonstrations, et cetera. So we capitalized on that. But the other big thing I do want to say is we had always leaned heavily into community. It was really, really important to us because people love the sense of belonging, right? You heard that from the peer group testimonial at the start of the show. Being able to be in a community and belong to something is something I believe as humans, we just naturally have an affinity for. So when we entered into this space, you saw us like all over the place at all industry events, right? We were in the wingsuits. You saw us, presenting in a bunch of ways to start building the community, getting the story out there, talking about what the future will be like. And by and large, we also had just really attractive marketing that, was sort of offbeat, humorous. It cut through the noise, and people really attached to that. They wanted to be a part of something. And we knew there was an opportunity in the market. We saw it. And so we capitalized on it. So a little bit of both to answer the question.
Yeah.
Capitalizing on market opportunity and then leaning into, the team at the right place at the right time. I mean, I'd be lying if I didn't say that.
Well, I feel like I could chat with you for the next couple hours. This is like super like, wow, this is how this thing got started. But I do want to hand you over to Bessie. I know she's got a couple of questions as well.
Well, thanks, Rex. I appreciate it.
Hey, JP, how's it going?
So good so far. Thanks, Bessie.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to ask you a little bit about Chris at the top of the show asked you about the different roles that we have for different salespeople on our team. I want to know a little bit about the demographics of our sales team and how you really keep them engaged and keep them going.
Absolutely. Okay, so the average age of our sellers, and I'll start off with our cloud gen team, this demand generation team, which is really made up of business development and sales development representatives. By and large, they're around 23 to 25 years old. They're coming out of college. They're thirsty to begin their career. Sales is in a lot of cases where people want to try out. They want to try it out, right? They know and understand that Maybe it's been a little glamorized, and I think probably for good reason. It is super fun. I'm
Yeah.
a little biased just being in sales, but it is that. It's that opportunity. And what we have constructed for our account executives, account managers, a little bit more tenured in age, a little bit more business acumen. We teach them a lot of the sales acumen, but a lot of those individuals come from our SDR and BDR teams. It's a natural progression. And how we keep them motivated is, and just at high level, you got to understand the individual's motivators, of course, right? And
Right.
understanding that as a leader is critically important. Understanding each individual's motivators and then at scale applying those things into practice. But what we have devised is, I think a lot of times in roles, people become complacent. They maybe learn the function of the role, they're doing well, and then they're quite thirsty for the next thing. And I believe the current generations we have that are entering into the workforce, it is really evident that they want the opportunity to have impact, to be challenged, and know their career progression. And from day one, we made that very, very clear. This is how you can progress in a career in sales. It's very linear, it's understood, it's measured, it's against their productivity, against their goals that they're shooting for. And so we usually see the SDR and BDRs are spending about a year, 12 to 14 months in that role, really mastering the conversation, mastering listening skills, understanding all the components of what an MSP runs, operates, etc., that by the time they graduate from that, they're taking on some of the functions of an account manager, an account executive, that they jump into that seat and they're already set up for success. Now we need to continue to coach them and refine, right? And I always use this analogy. It's a baseball analogy. And so if hopefully for those of you listening, you can at least follow along because it's simple. Okay. But in baseball, you're learning the fundamentals of the game, right? When you start learning the fundamentals of a game, you understand how to hold the bat, how to swing the bat, and when you hit the ball, you run this way. And it's always amazing to see little kids hit the ball and then run the opposite way. But usually it works, right? Because the coach is standing there, or a parent. But you're teaching them the fundamentals, right? You'll eventually teach them if someone throws the ball and they are on the base and they catch it before you get there, that's called an out. And you got to sit down, right? There are 3 outs. Okay. So we start out, really teaching the fundamentals of the business practice. And a lot of it is informed by, C-level operations and academy now really helping us in that journey for the skills that we need to teach based on profiles. But the opposite end is then you start teaching advancements of the game. We start to talk about bunting. Well, why would an individual go up and bunt, right? I want to go up there and swing and hit the ball as hard as I can. We'll say, well, now we're down a score. We want to put the runner in scoring position, so we're going to lay a bunt down. It probably means you're going to be out, but you sacrifice yourself to advance the runner. And so as we devised our program, our enablement program, to map into our partner profiles and the things they need, that is exactly the type of fundamentals and then all the way up that we continue to enable them on. So I hope that answers your
Yeah,
question
no,
in some
I
detail.
love that. Thinking about that strategy element too. And I know when we talk with MSPs, especially thinking about the engineer career planning, one of our biggest advice that we give when they're just starting out is you want to start doing the job before you have it, right? And I think you talked about that a little bit in your answer there too, is can't just expect everything to be given to you. You got to start taking on those advanced skills and responsibilities that you can step into that role and be ready for it. So I love that answer. My next question
Yeah.
is on a similar topic around how, you know, keeping the sales floor rewarded, engaged. Do you have any tips on compensation plans for salespeople? It's a hot topic here in Academy, and so I'd love to hear your perspective on compensation plans for the sales floor.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to lean into that. So, I'll bring up one thing. As a revenue leader, you walk a fine line. The line in the rope that you walk is delivering what the business needs while looking after and caring for your people. And it is a delicate line to ride, because if you ever fall in one or the other too heavily, you're in a predicament. You're actually in a battle. There's a battle of trade-offs. And I think it's really critically important. What's extremely hard to replicate, and the great Michael Porter has studied this, one of the hardest things to replicate is culture. So as you're developing culture, which is typically about people, you bring them along in the journey to understand the business needs, the business goals, and that's communicated. And so when we devise what our compensation plan is, the sellers already understand what it is we're trying to accomplish. We're trying to drive the behavior that we need, whether that's built around, landing more accounts, and then we want to begin expanding on those accounts. You might have a couple different compensation plans in there. You might have hunters that are going after new logos, new accounts, that then hand them off to a farmer, because people have different mentalities in their approach to selling. And you want to capitalize on those is one opportunity for you to set up and have a compensation plan that then rewards for those behaviors, that's aligned to those business goals. And ultimately, you should be thinking about what sellers care most about is, I obviously want to get paid. How do I get paid? I have to hit my number. How do I hit my number? Look, sales professionals will know when they look at a compensation plan, how do I work the comp plan? What are the gaps in this compensation plan that I can exploit? And if those are things that I can exploit, and the business has accelerators on those, like will pay me more money based on the sale of these things, well, they're going to go where water falls through the cracks the easiest, and what's going to accelerate them, provide them even more money, more opportunity. And so while you're doing that with accelerators, very common is you need to counterbalance with a decelerator. You might have a floor that might say something like, if you're below a certain percentage, we're going to pay you a lesser amount. That allows you, as you're thinking about your budget that you can spend for sales, to have an accelerator. You counterbalance with the decelerator, so you find harmony in what your actual payout is. Otherwise, your CFO or whoever's looking at the financials is going to come knocking on the door and have some questions for you. Yeah.
100%. I think that's some great advice there. And my last question for you is just, you've been with Pax8, you said 9 years, quite a while. Can you give us any advice at all from what you've learned over your journey with Pax8 and maybe even before that?
Yeah. Well, one thing I would lean into is there's been so many evolutions, especially on the account management on the sales side at Pax8. And again, like I said, we are like hyper obsessed with the partner / customer. A lot of times we use that interchangeably. Our customer are our partners. We're focused on that journey. We're focused on the experience that they have with us and how we can keep up with their evolving needs, demands, but also how to think future about where we see the market going and how to get ourselves prepared for that. So what I would say is, since I started in 2014, there's been about 5 evolutions of our sales program. And there's probably been 5 to 6 different compensation plans that we've administered over 9 years. And what I would say is, absolutely, no doubt about it. What I would say is, every single time we've gotten ourselves prepared for one of these evolutions, like a change that requires change management. I think a lot of times we talk about, we grow like a staircase. We operate on sort of a plane, things are going really well. And then we realize, gosh, we got to make some changes. We ran into a wall, and we make these changes so that we can gain productivity. And then we operate on this new plane. And what I would say is the thing that has worked best for us is we have always trialed things out. We've taken a subgroup of sellers and we've applied something new and we've studied it. In fact, we've involved them in the journey so that they become owners themselves. they naturally want to
Mhm.
see it become successful because they're a part of it. And then when it's time that we say, oh my gosh, we believe these couple things, we prove them to be true, it's meeting these types of metrics, we're now going to roll this out across the sales org. We already have buy-in. We already have a set of individuals who have done it, who are turning to their peers to say, I was in your seat 3 months ago. I'm in this new seat now. And I want to tell you, here's what the transition is going to look like for you. And so we've always tested things out like that. We've always relied on feedback along the way to make improvements. It's like we get the MVP out there and then we make iterations to improve. And so that's what
Yep.
I would, that's what I would share is don't be afraid to test some new things out and work with some individuals internally to prove some of those things out before you just go full on, depending on what the change is
Everyone
you
at
might be
once.
seeking.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
That's great advice. Well, I would love to bring back Rex and Chris to talk a little bit more about the future. You've given us some great advice on from what you've learned over the past. What's coming up for the future for Pax8 and for our sales department?
Yeah. Some big things, I think. Look, if you were at Beyond this year, you saw the marketplace vision of where Pax8 is going and how this is going to, when you talk about the three main areas that we focus, that we deliver value above and beyond, is to help grow revenue, gain efficiencies, and reduce risk in the business. And I think what you saw, what I know I for sure saw, and many did as well, I'm going to welcome you all to comment on this too, but the marketplace vision to enhance and really to line up with all three of those, to find more opportunity to capture more spend with your customer base, to do it more efficiently in a better quote to cash type experience via a marketplace storefront, that we know the buying journeys that are happening for end customers, businesses, is evolving. We're paying very close attention to that. And so these things mean we're going to continue to evolve, but based on these journeys that we're going to be studying and going on with our partners. So I'm thrilled at where we are headed right now, and know that just like always, we need the partner feedback and the insight, and a lot of stuff that we're showing and getting ready to roll out in some subsequent months here has been a lot about partner led.
Yeah, I can tell you, like, I remember when Scott Chasen was starting to introduce the vision, there was a slide in his deck that said Pax8's ability to grow is highly dependent on our partners' ability to sell, right? And then
Yeah.
the next slide says, our partners kind of rank selling as the number one thing they struggle with or need help with, right? So I think that's why, within Academy, we've started helping partners with selling, way more seriously than we had in the past. And, maybe JP, can you talk a little bit about what we did internally with force management? And then, maybe I could share a little bit about what we're doing to bring that to the partners.
Yeah, I'd love to do that. So a couple things here. I had mentioned earlier in our segment that you have to be able to select the type of sales methodology that you believe for your business is going to be the best bet to rally around, to build content around, to have a similar language across all of your sellers in a framework that allows you to constantly add in, whether it's a new customer profile that you're discovering, you want to add it in, it lands in your value framework, the value that your business delivers, and it lands somewhere on paper that individuals get enabled around, and that it becomes a real living thing. And so what we did was we set out on this mission to build our value framework. And the value framework, we listed out almost 100 things, right, Rex? I mean, 100 things that Pax8 does that are of value to our customer, MSPs, right? Business partners alike in the IT space. And what we boiled those down to was, again, we clumped them into these three areas. And the three areas were the grow revenue, gain efficiencies, and reduce risk. What we did from there was we actually played out scenarios via the value sales framework, which looks like what's the current state? What are the negative consequences? What are some changes that could be put into place for a future state, the desired state? What are the positive business outcomes? What are required capabilities and business metrics? And based on that framework, we filled in a ton of information around each three of the value drivers, and then all of the content around how we do it better, and case studies, proofs. And so when we did that and we realized how powerful this thing really was, the immediate reaction to Rex, the point you brought up, was our partners would kill for this. They would love this. And so Academy, why don't you talk about that for a little bit, how it is transition into the Academy?
Yeah, so we took this seriously. We've been building a lot in the background, and we've been piloting in some of our sales coaching programs. But we brought in, what was it, 15 partners or something like that, and said, hey, let's bring the partners in and facilitate them through what are those same value drivers? What's that same value framework? What's the before scenarios, the after scenarios, the positive business outcomes for what our partner solutions are to their customers? And it had nothing to do with the products on the Pax8 line card, right? Like, because we need our partners able to work with their customers. And so, the idea is the same as we've done with all of our content, is let's kind of create some templates that are probably 80% accurate for any individual partner of ours, so that they can, have a place to start from and build their 20% that makes them unique, and then carry it forward. So we built kind of this value framework within Academy, and now what we've been working on the last several months, and like I said, we're already using it in our coaching programs, because that helps us develop the content that we build into the on-demand content, the instructor-led courses, leveraging that content in our peer groups. But, we've already, like I said, some of our partners have been helping us build this content. But we're looking to bring this to the partner community. There's going to be parts of it rolling out during Q4. And, we hope to have most of it rolled out as we head into Q1. But I'm really excited about bringing that sales enablement framework to the partner community, because I know Pax8's ability to grow is dependent on the partner's ability to sell to their customers, right? So I'm excited about it.
Yeah. And I'm thrilled about it too, Rex. And look, I don't think anyone should overlook the foundation of their sales program and their value that is delivered. Also can be captured in case studies and proofs, right? Don't take it from me. Take it from businesses that I've worked with that look like you. And here's the outcomes that we've delivered to help transform that business. So it also helps with marketing, clicking into our value framework, our talk tracks as well. So could not stress that enough. It'll be a big opportunity for our partners.
Can you tell us a little bit, JP, about the difference it's made? It's quite a big challenge to change your whole sales framework from something to our now command of the message. Can you talk about the impact that it's made, or how have partners been responding? How have the sales floor been responding to this change?
Absolutely. Yeah. So a few things. I believe, to my core, that sales is just becoming more and more challenging. And why do I say that? I say that because access to information has never been at this level of abundancy. You have the abilities. I can make decisions to buy. And in fact, Forrester, spent a lot of time studying this. 72% of people have made a buying decision before they even engage anyone. I'm sure you've done that in your personal life, maybe like a computer lens or whatever it is, a new camera lens. You've made a decision. And then of the 72%, 68% prefer a marketplace experience. They can just go buy it. They don't even want to talk to anyone. And these are technology decisions. I'm not talking about, a new soda I might want to try out, right? We're talking about some things that are by nature. And so, I think because of that, you have to make sure that these are the things you're focused on. These are the things that you're studying, and you have the opportunities with your sellers to go have business conversations, to sit on the same side of the table with your partner and go through their current state, right? And think about a buying journey altogether. There's lots of on-ramps you come on. Sometimes people don't realize they have a business challenge until you expose it to them, right? Or even say things like, Rex, I talk to a lot of businesses that look like you. These are the things they're telling us that are challenges, real business challenges for them. Does that resonate with you? Rex might tell me
Yeah,
yes or no.
you have to understand the pain, right?
Yeah. But if I had just said to you, Rex, hey, tell me about your business challenges, I'm probably not going to open up like that. But if I have an understanding that you're talking to people like me that are having these types of challenges, I might be more forthcoming. There are other types of the on-ramp where someone has been shopping and they're going to call you up and say, hey, we want to buy this product. And you need to quickly understand, where they are in that buying journey and how to meet their needs. So our framework allows us to be audible ready, to dive into conversations, and also understand who are the profiles of the people in this meeting to be able to talk to them. Talk to them in real business acumen, talk to them so that they know we understand their business and we're sitting on the same side of the table, helping them solve those problems. So this has been the impact. And since we're a marketplace, right, we have 3 growth levers: the number of partners we have, the number of vendors that we have, and the number of customers per vendor via our partners that they have. So what we're seeing through our new framework that we rolled out last year is the amount of opportunities per engagement has tripled. So we're building longer term roadmaps, business roadmaps with our partners. And the feedback we're getting from our partners are, I've not really had these types of conversations where people understand our business and we're working together to really solve our challenges. So that's the benefit that this type of framework can have.
I just want to give a quick example. I remember we were trying to get 1,000 partners to come to Beyond, right? And some of those initial conversations sounded a lot like, yeah, have you heard about Beyond? You should come. We're going to have Peyton Manning, right?
Yeah.
And like, we're not getting signups, right? And then, then we kind of realized we have all this educational content, and they could say, hey, tell me a little bit about a problem that you're having growing your business, and they'll say, we're having a real hard time with onboarding, hiring engineers or whatever, or we're having a real hard time finding a target client that we can make an opportunity from. And we're like, well, we're going to have a session on finding your perfect client. That might be something you'd be interested in seeing at Beyond, right? Completely different conversation. And
yes,
like the signups just went through the roof, right?
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with our partners
right.
and the way they're talking to their clients.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more on that. As soon as we really rallied around that as where the topic of Beyond fit into the business conversations we were having, we changed our approach pretty quickly, and we started focusing on that. Again, it was business outcome related, and then discussing the value of being with peers in a community setting, in an engagement, session like you're talking about. And that's when we really had things click, and people realized this event Beyond is unlike other ones that I'm usually going to. In fact, this is the feedback I'm typically giving to other events I'm going to, is the education, the learning, right? The access. So yeah, well stated.
JP, do you have, with all the work you've done, do you have any words of advice for MSPs that are struggling with sales and marketing? Are there, easy actionable things or low hanging fruit or common mistakes you see MSPs make, or new opportunities that our partners maybe need to kind of start thinking about? Or what kind of advice would you give to our partners that express some of those struggles around sales?
Yeah. I would come back to defining some of the foundation, like really thinking about the business outcomes, not just that we manage IT. Like when I look at some different partners' messages via their modes of messaging, predominantly driven through things like LinkedIn or their website, right? It's about, well, we manage IT, we do these things. It's not really business outcome led. By working with us, these are the benefits that you're gaining. This is how your business can advance when working with us. Now, that just so happens to be that we manage these types of services on the back end, but it produces these types of things. So being really intentional about your messaging and not leading with things like product or things like, let's just manage your help desk. That's not outcome related. You need to focus on that. And internally, again, think about the communication and the journey, the buying journey that the customer is going to go on, to dissect that, land that in the clear roles and responsibilities that they're going to execute different parts of the journey, and make sure that you can train. And that's critical. The training. You got to trust and inspect. You got to roll out the training, but you have to spend time being in the framework with them, in the business conversations with them. A great opportunity is, let's say the framework or the conversation is in 3 parts with a new customer. Let them take the first third of the conversation while you take the second and third of the conversation. Then allow them in the next subsequent meetings. I want you to take the first and second to, third, and I'll take the last, and then allow them to take the full while you sit on there. But in real time, after call debriefing and coaching is critically important, as important as the pre-call prep work. What are our discovery questions? What are our trap setting questions? What are the types of things that are going to get us into the conversation with the profile of the business that's going to allow us to sit on the same side and help them get to the business outcome we know we can solve? And so I would encourage that. And align yourself with marketing. Marketing is critical to be along in that ride together and really taking ownership of what they're delivering at the top of the funnel, new customers, but also once we've discovered we have found an opportunity, what is the marketing team's responsibility in the funnel at the middle and the bottom of that opportunity? It's not all on sales at that point to get it across the finish line. It can go faster with marketing's assistance, like case studies, testimonials, proofs, all the things that people want to digest in little nuggets, short little videos or testimonials that can be written and sent on behalf of the seller to help them. And I think that that's when sales and marketing, boy, there is a tremendous synergy between the group.
Amazing.
I feel like,
Thank you
I
so
feel like
much,
we could,
JP.
I feel like we could go on for a day with you.
Definitely.
Well, I appreciate it. Great questions.
Well, thanks so much, JP. You're a great guest, and hopefully we'll have you on again in the future. But thank you so much for being on Academy Live. Let's move to our final thoughts.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with sales is tough. A lot of us were all, mostly we're founded by technicians that had that entrepreneurial seizure that started our business. And so we're going to, go toward the technician and talking like a technician. And we just need to, realize that sales is something that we need to be very deliberate about and stay on top of it. And the more we stay on top of it, the more it kind of cuts that roller coaster ride out of the business. Chris, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm really pleased with what Academy is getting to, in response to clients, partners' needs. And I think that I love seeing what we're developing to try to help partners, because that is the number one, most common thing we hear from partners is, I need help with selling, I need help getting out there, getting a name out. And Betsy, I'm sure you hear that too from your courses and the feedback, etc.
Definitely. And it's something that we're always building more and more courses and support engagement and to help with that sales enablement. So keep checking it out and keep coming back to us with what you need help with. And that way we can kind of continue to grow with you. So this is a great episode. We're going to continue with our last segment on back to school will be next week where we talk about leverage your tools. So make sure that you join us next week for that last back to school session. It's going to be great. Please remember to like and subscribe so you never miss this amazing content. Rex, would you like to close us out?
Same as always, I'd like you to think about what you're going to do differently to improve your business tomorrow.